who is the President of the Institute, retired Chief Justice of India, who is going to preside over the function and conduct the meeting. Before we get on with the lecture, it is in the fitness of things that I speak a few words of, it would be presumptuous to say introduction, because CM requires no introduction. Yet there may be some among the audience who may not know much about him. So I would like to say a few words about his life and works. As already said, he is popularly known as Sri M. He was born in Thiruvananthapuram on the 6th of November 1948. He was, as a young boy of 9 years, he was initiated into and grew up in Nath tradition, Sri Guru and Babaji. His Guru being Sri Maheshwar Nath. His main life's mission and preoccupation is education and spiritual guidance to people seeking salvation. Some outstanding characteristics of his life is his life thoughts and works. He's intensely humanistic, very humble, as you can see. His cosmopolitan in outlook, and rises far above the narrow barriers of caste, creed, and class distinctions. Universal brotherhood is his living, vibrant, practical ideal of life, which indeed is also the ideal on which this Institute of World Culture is based. He has assimilated the essence of all religions. Ekam Satyam Vipra Bahuda Vadanti is illustrated by him in his talks, in his writings, in his speech. He has dedicated his life to bridge the communal, creedal caste divides with the message of essential unity and brotherhood of all. From his childhood, he was in quest of truth. As already said, at the age of 9, he came in contact with his spiritual mentor, Babaji. And at the age of 19, he lived with his teacher in the Himalayas and traveled with his Guru, or perhaps a pilgrimage, for 3.5 years, went all over India. And he even went to Tibet to be further instructed by his spiritual mentors, and who prepared him for his life's mission of love, labor of love. Thereafter, he traveled all over India, from Kashmir to Kanyakumari, familiarizing himself with the various spiritual and religious traditions. He is versed in the Vedas and the Upanishadic lore. He travels even now extensively, giving talks, guiding people who need guidance in right living. His message is very simple. Spirituality or spiritual path is not divorced from life. One did not abandon family and life to seek spiritual wisdom. It is to be sought in life, in your daily life, with the right attitude and with the right aspiration. And he says there is no one path for all. Each individual is unique, and path of each is unique to himself. And he propounds satsang is to be very important activity. The satsang which transcends castes and creeds. He is at home in religious teachings of all religions, and at the same time he lives a householder's life. He is married and has 2 children, and lives a very simple life. And he founded and heads Satsang Foundation, which is a meeting place of people of all faiths and he's devoted to excellence in education. He has also started Sarva Dharma Kendra, which all the religions have sprung from one source, which is the basis of our today's discourse, the common basis of our religion. And he has founded Sarva Dharma Kendra. Niyama have all religion devoted to religious harmony. At present time, he lives modestly in Madanapalli, not very far from Bangalore. And he runs free primary education and also free primary health service. And shortly he is going to launch Manava Ekta Mission, and he'll be organizing a walk of hope in 2015. He himself will be leading it from Vivekananda Rock in Kanyakumari to Kashmir, which is to unite the nation, which, as you all know, is in a terrible, terrible crisis. So we require guidance of such people as Sri M. I, again, on behalf of you, I extend to him a very hearty welcome. And then we have Sri M. Venkatacharya, Dan Chief Justice, the President of the Institute. I extend to him a very warm welcome on behalf of all of you. I request Sri M. Venkatacharya to offer his presidential remarks after the talk. Thank you all very much. Now, Sri M will take over. Thank you very much.
खंडमंडलाकारं व्याप्तं येन चराचरं तत्पदं दर्शितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनं शलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुर्साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्री। I cannot begin anything without salutations to the teacher. So, if it is in Sanskrit, don't think that it belongs to any particular community or caste. Because Sanskrit is an ancient language of this country, which if more people knew, perhaps we would not have been in the state which we are in. Sir, it's okay. Can you hear me? No? Little louder. Then I move forward. Now, so the subject that is given to me is common basis of world religions. is a tall order. Not that there are no facts in this matter, but each person has taken one part of this thing called religion and made it to appear that this is the most important. That's the only problem. It's not that the essence is not there, it's very much there. Now before we start further, I'm going to tell you a little story which Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa was very fond of. But it happens to be a Sufi story. Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa was a being who cannot be categorized into any particular design. Because he lived absolutely free, practicing every religious discipline and its personal sadhana, and personally coming to the conclusion that whichever way we go, we come to this. This was a personal experience for him, not theory. Although his major sadhana was in the field of bhakti and Vedanta. So he was very fond of this Sufi story. It's about 4 blind men who go to find out what an elephant is. Blind men going to find out what an elephant is. So you know what will happen. One of them touched the feet of the elephant, the legs of the elephant. He can only touch, he cannot see. And he said, an elephant is like a big pillar, thick pillar, and very hard to touch. Another one touched the tail of the elephant and said, an elephant is shaped like a brush with bristles and a long tube on it, can be moved, and it constantly moves. The third touched the ear of the elephant and said, it's a flat protrusion which also slaps once in a while when you go near. And the fourth man touched the trunk of the elephant. He said an elephant is like a rubber hose. Sometimes it makes noises and you can get water coming out of it. This is what an elephant is all about. And a big fight began on what is the correct definition of an elephant. Till the time, a person who was not blind, someone who could see, walked in and asked them, what is this fight all about? They said, no, we are defining the elephant. He said, how do you define it? So they defined individual. So he said, the elephant which you are talking about, which you cannot see, but I can, is all the things that you say. There's no doubt about that. But it is much more than all the things that you say. You put all these things together and add much more, then you will know what an elephant is all about. Because I can see it. It is a trunk, it has a tail, it has everything, but it is not, the parts are not the elephant. The whole thing is the elephant. The same story that Ramakrishna Paramahamsa used to say, another one, about 4 people who went on a travel journey and became thirsty. All the 4 were thirsty. And all the 4 came from different parts of the world. So when they became thirsty, one of them wanted to drink jala, which in Sanskrit is water. The second one wanted to drink water because he was from that country. And the third one wanted aqua because he was from Greece. And the fourth one, something else, whatever. Finally, again, this big fight happened. And saying that if we need aqua to quench our thirst. Fact is, everybody was thirsty. Until someone came who knew all the languages, who explained to them, saying, look, You are all looking for the same thing in different ways, in different names. 2000 years ago, more than 2000 years ago, 2000 years at a very conservative estimate, the Rigveda said, Ekam Sat Vipra Bahuda Vedanti. There is only one truth, Ekam Sat Vipra Bahuda Vedanti. The wise men, the Vipras call it by different names. It's an ancient teaching, it's nothing new. But then one gets stuck with this little bit of one side of the story and thinks that this is the best and this is the greatest. Understand? Now, to further illustrate this point, take Vedanta. When you say Vedanta, many people suddenly say Advaita Vedanta. Because many of us, unfortunately, because in language Sanskrit, which is so allied, is considered to be dead language, don't know what we are talking about. There are all kinds of Vedanta. Once long ago, many years ago, I was asked to address the Religious Studies Department in Harvard University. Not because of my greatness, but because my wife's uncle was teaching them. He was a senior professor, so I was invited. It was a small gathering because I was not so well known or anything. But it was interesting. Everybody listened carefully. I would say they listened clinically. Absolute attention. And at the end of it, one of the professors asked me a question which I have rarely encountered in our blessed country. He said, you have been throughout your talk talking about Vedanta. When you say Vedanta, are you talking about Advaita Vedanta or Vishishta Advaita or Dvaita or a mixture of all this? Many of us don't ask this question because we are not aware of this. That their Vedanta simply means that part of the Vedas which is the wisdom teaching which comes at the end of the Samhitas, Brahmanas, the Upanishad. This is Vedanta. Now the same has been interpreted by the Acharyas in different ways. I'm not talking about this culture and religion of this country. We will go to others. Now, Adi Shankaracharya interpreted it in purely Advaitic terms. Many years passed, and this exercise became so intellectual and bereft of feeling in bhava and bhakti that Ramanujacharya stepped in and said, we have to do something about this. So, he proposed his Vishishta Advaita. Means it is Advaita, alright, there is only one truth, but slightly modified. Please, I am not belonging to any of these categories. I am not promoting any as. So, he started. Now, his theory was very simple. Okay, admitted that the human soul, the jiva, is part of the divine. Admitted. We cannot deny it. Okay. But then he proposed that the individual soul, even though it is part of the Supreme Being, who instead of Brahman he called Sriman Narayana, change of name. Suppose he said we conceive of the Supreme Being as a big body. The individual cells that go to form this body are the jivas. Now you cannot say that the jiva is separate from the Narayana, nor can we say that Narayana is separate from jiva because they all are together. But the jiva is still limited. Why? He said, all water is the same. All water is the same. We know now that it is H2O. Although the H2O in Banaras has become so terrible now, I wish somebody does something about it. We always go and say, Ganga is our mother, but nobody cleans it up. Anyway, that's a different matter. So he said, everything is water, H2O, everything is Narayana. But if you have a bowl of water on a table, it's the same water, but you cannot run a ship on it. That is possible only for Ishvara. This is called Vishitadvaita, roughly. This is not the whole elaborate thing. So many hundreds of books have been written, I can't explain in one sentence, but roughly this is what it is. Then came Madhvacharya, who said all this is fine, there is a jiva, it has to be purified and so on. But it can never become the infinite. So somebody said, then what about the Upanishads and the Vedas? They say, Aham Brahmasmi. He said, in the Upanishad, the Brahman says, Aham Brahmasmi. You, who eat, drink, pee, shit and die, how can you be the Brahman? So these are what I am trying to say now. We should say, oh, this is wrong and that. No. Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa demonstrated it beautifully in his own life by saying that different individuals with different backgrounds start in a different manner, but finally they reach the same truth. He went through all the systems. I have someone whom I respect very much, who is much older than me, who is actually a well-known person, who belongs to the Madhva Sampradaya, and who thinks that I belong to the Shankara Sampradaya. I don't know why, but he's a very elderly person. I don't want to name him. I can only say that he is very much part of the Ashtamathas of Udupi. So whenever I used to go to Udupi, not because of anything else, because my in-laws used to live there. They are from Udupi. So my job in the morning was to take a walk, to go around the temple, have darshan and come out. So invariably when you go, this particular person I'm talking about, this Swami, will be walking out. Oh, when did you come? Come to the mutt. Go to the mutt. He doesn't drink coffee, but I get a nice cup of coffee. Udupi coffee is famous. And then we had a chat. So one day I told him, Swamiji, all that is fine, but let us conceive of a situation. I am a Krishna Bhakta, let us say. And at one point, I am so absorbed in Krishna. Why I said this? Because in Madhva's all paintings and portraits, you see him sitting like this too. I said, suppose I am fond of Krishna, and at some point I have become so absorbed in Krishna that I don't remember that I exist. I'm lost. I'm not there, only Krishna is there. That point, is there one or two? Suddenly he said one. He said, no. So you can't say like that. So anyway, he's one of the important priests in the Jesuit order. He went for a communal harmony meeting, and I said, Father, but you say all religions are one. He said, then it's my bread and butter is gone. Good friend, of course. So, even in one religion, the common basis is the same, but there are different approaches. Now come to other religions. Now, first, before going there, I want to tell you how religions start. If you go back and look at all religions, any religion, I'm not talking about any modern sects and so on, but major religions of the world, let us say, you will find that every religion starts with somebody's mystical experience. Somebody had a mystical experience. Now this mystical experience is that which transcends ordinary reason. The mystical experience cannot be transcribed or limited by any rational framework. It's not possible. The ancient rishis who wrote the Upanishads, they didn't write, who gave us the Upanishads and the Vedas, experienced they had mystical experiences where they saw and heard the truth firsthand. Therefore, it's called Shruti. Shruti. Shruti means that which is heard, which shows up through the ear. Not the visible ear, of course. If you hear something in the visible ear, you have to go to an ENT and check up. This is not that. Something that comes from within, from above. Something which cannot be put into the category of ordinary thought. So the rishis, starting with so many rishis, Yajnavalkya, Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, you see how Yajnavalkya talks to his Maitri. And he was also the teacher of Janaka, the great king of Vidya, considered a Raja Rishi. And so many other rishis, Vishwamitra, who gave us the Gayatri Mantra, and so on. What you find is they had an original mystical experience. And from that mystical experience, depending upon where they lived and what kind of people they were dealing with, a religion was formulated. Now that religion, although it has its source in the Shruti, when it becomes a practical system, it's classified in what is known as Smriti. Manusmriti. Now the difference is that Smriti can be changed and altered and adapted according to circumstances. But Shruti, being a revelation that has come through super sensual ways, cannot be changed. That is the ultimate truth. In the same way, any religion you take up, Islam for instance, it all started because the Prophet Muhammad had some spiritual experiences, mystical experiences. So here I am saying that there is a difference between spiritual and religion. Although all religions are based upon spiritual essence. But when they turn to religion, then it changes according to the situation, according to the geographical location, according to the people to whom it is preached. So somebody had a mystical experience. He used to go and stay for 1 month on the top of a hill and fast during the day and eat during the evening. When I say eat during the evening, not the tamasha of eating that we see nowadays, but a date and a piece of bread. Now everybody goes to this, what is it called? Iftar. Everyone wearing caps and all kinds of things for nothing. And it's done in such a grand manner as if somebody's marriage is being celebrated. You have only to break the fast, that's all you need to do. So this whole month, which is called the month of Ram, is the name of a month in Arabic. He used to fast and go and stay up there, and his wife used to cook for him. After 25 years of this, patiently doing some practice which we don't know, given to him, he had a vision. He had some revelation which is written down, and which he chanted, he never wrote down, as a Quran. Now, when it becomes a religion, rules and regulations are put in place. And these rules and regulations are smriti. They are put in place for the people who are there at that point to practice, to become better and move forward. So these rules and regulations, now among the Islamic teachings, there is one section who are called Sufis, who are purely mystical in their approach. According to them, the rules and regulations, which we may call the Smriti, like the Manu's Shastras, are called Shariat. But the truth is called Hakikat, which is the truth, which has to be found individually with the help of a teacher. It can't be just understood by simply praying 5 times a day. It needs an individual guide who is called a guru, who is called a sheikh. Not the oil sheikhs, please. is also called a murshid, teacher. So, now take Christianity. I'm talking about Jesus, not about the church. If you look at the life of Jesus, you will see, if he was born in India, he would have been one of our great rishis, or even I think an avatar. In Bhagavatam, Buddha is also added as an avatar. So how did it come about? Here was a man who fits all the descriptions of a spiritual wanderer. He himself says in the Sermon on the Mount, the snakes have holes and the foxes have dens, but the Son of Man does not know where to lay his head. Which means he didn't even have a house. In the Gita, that's called Aniketa, one who has no house whatsoever, who doesn't have a fixed abode, who is always wandering, wearing old clothes, whatever was available to him. And having experienced something profound, he said, I and my Father are one. And he also said many things which are so similar to all the spiritual teachings that we have also in this country. In the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 12, which is called Bhakti Yoga. Now, it's interesting to note that Bhakti Yoga comes only as chapter 12. Because I think Arjuna was not ready for this thing called Bhakti till chapter 12. In chapter 11, various other things, Sankhya, Karma, and so on. And then in chapter 12 comes Bhakti Yoga. Why? Because it's only in chapter 10 that Arjuna begins to wonder if this man sitting with him on the chariot, who he considers to be his friend, his companion, his brother-in-law and his driver, chauffeur, is not an ordinary person but an extraordinary being. Because that is where the Mahimas are described, among the Rishis and Kapila and so on and so forth. Among the Vedas and Samaveda and so on. And then in the 11th chapter, in the 11th chapter, suddenly Krishna changes his appearance and Arjuna is shocked. He says, who is this? Finally he says, Tavam Mahadeva Purusha Purana. He's amazed. He says, I thought you were my friend and brother-in-law and so on. What is this that I see? And then comes chapter 12, because then Bhakti is born in Arjuna's. Devotion is born, because he's discovered that this is not something which can be solved by all our rational thinking and thought processes and so on. So this is the essence which all great teachers who have gone into the spiritual field have found, basically, the mystical experience, that the truth is that which cannot be found or which cannot be defined by our rational framework. Why? Because, since we are on the subject, I must say this, because we all have our limited so-called rational frameworks, which may differ with different individuals. And if they differ with different individuals, that means they are not absolute. They are relative. Because, like when we are a child, you think, I think I know everything about science. And in high school, I know the sun is staying, the earth is moving around. I know everything. Then when I go to college, I realize that I don't know some things. Then I go to higher studies and finally I realize I don't know anything. Because we have jumped from Newtonian physics to the great science called quantum physics, where nothing is certain. Absolutely. Even the smallest particle of matter, we don't know what it is, how it functions. You can't see it anyway. People have this wrong idea that you can see the quarks and atoms through a microscope. You cannot see it. You can only deduce it by the reactions. There's no other way you can do. And that is found to be so erratic and so unexplained that even the basics of physics, we have nobody is sure what it is all about. And these are the building blocks of nature. So forget about other things, even in physics. So as one progresses, the so-called rational framework which one had built breaks and is rebuilt. New rational frameworks are built up. This is how we progress. When we say, I am a very rational being, I have my rational framework, if I can't examine it with this, I will not accept it, which means I have a very limited rational framework. Why? Because my rational framework is based on the inputs that I get from my five sense organs. I have no other instruments of perception. I have only my five sense organs. What other organs of perception do I have? None. So the inputs from these five sense organs are very limited. And therefore, that data produces, the brain produces a rational framework out of that data, which is itself very limited. Therefore, it has to be limited. Because the sense organs cannot even be believed. Every morning you see the sun rise and set, but a schoolboy will tell you that the sun neither rises nor sets. But I see it with my eyes. So when I say seeing is believing, that's the first fault we find in our rational framework. I would say unseen is believing. So anyway, that doesn't matter. So we are saying that apart from the five senses of perception, not we meaning all the great teachers who have founded the different religions, because they had to be founded for a purpose. They all had mystical experiences, spiritual experiences. Why? Because they discovered that there are other instruments of perception in the human system which are not awakened but are usually inactive. So the whole process of the spiritual journey is to activate and open up these instruments of perception in us so that we get access to dimensions which are beyond ordinary thought. Because thought cannot touch it. The Kena Upanishad says, Yan manasana manyute yanahur manomatam tadeva brahmatvam vidhi nedam yadidam upasate no tushruti. It means that which the mind cannot reach, but because of which the mind has the capacity to function. Know that alone is the truth, nothing that you worship here. It's a terrible statement. And the Kena Upanishad, believe me, is from the Samaveda, which Arjuna declared, Krishna declared to Arjuna, of the Vedas I am the Samaveda. So, Jesus, no, I was talking about the 12th chapter of the Gita. There, Arjuna asks Krishna a question. It's one of the few chapters which starts instead of Sri Bhagavan Vacha, Arjuna Vacha. Arjuna asks. What does he ask? He says, you tell me, who is the greatest yogi? Who is nearest to you? One who meditates on the abstract, formless Supreme Being, or one who worships you with devotion as you are, with form? Which do you consider to be the greatest? Yogi, you are the right person to answer, so please tell me. Now Krishna, as usual, doesn't answer that question straightforward. He says it doesn't matter which way you worship, with form, without form. That is subsidiary. Although human beings are all form-oriented. We are all form. How do you recognize me? By my sharp nose or whatever. How do you recognize me? And we are so form-oriented. What do you do in the morning as soon as we wake up? Tell me. The small comb. So we love our forms. We are all form-oriented. We recognize each other through forms. So Arjuna says to Krishna, although the abstract Supreme Being can be worshipped also by few individuals, not everybody, it's easier to worship that form because we are all form-oriented, and then from there proceed. But he says that is not the most important thing. With form or without form is not the question. The question is, that does a human being, a spiritual aspirant, have certain qualities If he has these qualities, then he is already moved up on the path. And the first quality that Arjuna, that Krishna has taught to Arjuna in Bhakti Yoga, is not that one who sings my names constantly or anything of that kind, although that is also there. It says Sarva Bhuta Hitayata, one who has the welfare of all living beings in his heart. I consider to be the greatest of yogis and nearest to me. Believe me, the name of the chapter is Bhakti Yoga. Now, compare this with another world religion, Jesus speaking. I'm not talking about the organized religion as such. I'm talking about the teachings, the bare teachings of Jesus. If you read the Sermon on the Mount, he goes up to the mount and he says things which probably he only practiced. It's not possible to practice so easily. Bless them that curse you. Do good to them that hate you. And pray for them that despitefully use you and persecute you. If one can live 10% of his life, we are actually free. We have no worries. But what do? Somebody ignored me, then I ignore him more. Somebody didn't speak to me, so I don't speak to him. If somebody doesn't speak to us, why don't we speak to them? What happens? See, ultimately, according to the ancient teachings, the divine dwells in everybody's heart. There is no being in which the divine doesn't dwell. Because if the divine doesn't dwell in the heart, we won't have even life. Move around or smile or fight saying that the divine doesn't exist. For that also it has to exist. And knowing this, if you can treat every living being as a temple of God, then we are following the essence of religion, which comes from the mystical experience of the founders. But this same great yogi, whom we call Jesus, also said something which has not been explained anywhere. He said, therefore, if thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light. Babaji told me that if your eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light. It's about the eye of wisdom which all of us have but are not activated. Otherwise, it can't mean that if you have only one eye, your body shall be full of light. This is not possible. Now, so we have roughly looked at 3 religions. It's a wide subject, but generally, all I want to say also is that it is the mystical experience of the founders who has brought about the religion. So even though there may be differences externally in religions as they are practiced because of the people to whom it was given and the geographical location and the time in which they happen, the essence has to be the same. It cannot be different. Okay, take the Buddha. Buddhism. The Buddha did not even talk about the existence or non-existence of God. He was silent in that. But he taught, which also has been taught by the Upanishads and the Vedas, that desire is the root of all sorrow. In fact, the teachings of the Buddha are actually going directly back into the Upanishads, cutting across all the other trappings that have come over the course of time. He didn't say there is no God. He didn't say there is no God. He kept silent. His thing was that if you purify yourself and live a right life and have compassion and kindness to others and be free of the desire for becoming all the time. Like Plato said, there are 2 eternal things. That which is and is never becoming, and that which is not but is ever becoming. So if that becoming can stop, then that which is comes about. He called it nirvana, which means freedom. There is another word for that, kaivalya. Another word is moksha. You see, if you put even a small child in a room, why small child? A dog in a room and close the door and give all food, it will not want to eat the food, it will want to break and come out. Because in all of us, there is the seed of wanting freedom. We can be put in a golden cage, but it's a cage. We want to break free. It starts in childhood. It's an innate impulse in all human beings to be free. And the Buddha said that freedom is called nirvana. Get out of this. So, then there is the ancient religion of the Jews whose mystical teachings are called the Kabbalah. In fact, very few people even know about the Kabbalah. Once I talked to a Kohen who was leading the synagogue in Cochin about the Kabbalah, and he said, I don't know about it, don't touch it. Because it's a beautiful teaching where the tree of life is described and how one ascends to different levels. And the tree of life is similar to the tree of life expressed in the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna describes the world tree, that there is a tree whose roots are up above and branches down below, whose leaves are the Vedas. Who understands this understands the truth. So, what I am coming to is that all religions start with the spiritual experience of its founders. But depending upon the climate and the situation in which they are, they modify it into different forms. And therefore, while the forms are different, the essence is the same. The root is the same. The moment one forgets that and says, mine is the only right thing, everything else is wrong, then we are actually moving out from its essence and going in a different direction. But unfortunately it happens. Why? Because of human limited knowledge. It also happens because of vested interests. It also happens because of the politics of religion. Politics only divides, it can't unite. So when that becomes an essential part of your religion, then it starts the work of disintegrating. Otherwise, there is no need. Look, I may be following one religion, you may be following another. The most important religion is the religion of humanity. Am I compassionate? Some people meditate for hours together. Babaji told me that you can meditate for 24 hours a day for 24 years in a cave. If you cannot hear the cry of a child in your neighbor's house, all your 24 years has been useless. Throw them out. Because the first thing that happens as one moves towards the spiritual is Sarvabhuta Hidayata, welfare for all living beings. Not visions. And how much better visions can we have than people who take LSD? They can have much more visions than we have. That's not the criteria. The criteria is how good we are, how compassionate, how do we feel for others, plus what the Gita calls Sthita Prajna, which means under all circumstances it is possible to maintain a balance and not get excited or depressed, but remain in that state. That is called a Sthita Prajna. I think a Sthita Prajna state is the first step towards the Supreme. When that happens, the mind becomes tranquil and quiet, and one begins to share that quietness and tranquility with others. It may not be done deliberately, it just happens that one shares. Not as if I am going to project tranquility, it's not like that. When the heart of a person is quiet, a person who sits with him also feels quiet. It is a known fact. So, we have covered the major religions to some extent. But there are so many other sub-religions, sub-cults. This applies to all. Because the person who founded it had a mystical experience, and that time it was necessary to lead it in this particular way. Therefore it went that way. It's not wrong, but it's also not absolutely right. because we might have to change as we go along. If we don't change and adapt ourselves, then we are not moving forward anywhere. So, now I want to tell you a small story before we stop. This story was told by a very elderly and respected figure whom I knew very closely for some years. I believe once the devil and his close friend went for a walk. The devil and his close friend went for a walk. So the devil bent down and picked up something and put it in his pocket. So his friend asked him, "What did you pick up just now?" The devil said, "I just picked up the truth." His friend said, "Then your days are numbered. Because you are the opposite of truth, your untruth, your darkness, your ignorance. If you have picked up the truth, then you are finished. There is no hope for you." The devil tapped his friend on his shoulders and said, "Don't worry, friend, I will organize it." So, the essence of religion appears in different forms, in different ways, because of the organizational aspect of it, which of course is necessary at certain point, at certain people, is that we shouldn't stretch it and say that it will always apply this way, only. It is only the word that is a problem. Otherwise, we can very easily understand the great Rig Vedic teaching, Ekam Sat Vipra Bahuda Vedanti. The truth is one, but the wise may call it by different names. Ramakrishna used to say when a mother cooks, well, he used to say fish, but we can say vegetable, let's say. Mother cooks something for 5 children. She cooks it in 5 different ways, so that she knows who likes what and enjoy. So the Supreme Being has manifested in different ways, myriad ways, depending upon the people. In fact, I would say, some people say that there are no religions. I don't believe in this, because every human being needs some religion or the other. Maybe the religion of kindness, or it may be a religion of rituals, it doesn't matter, but we need it. Only thing is, I would go a little ahead and say, as many number of people in this world, so many religions can exist. But they should coexist. If they coexist, there is no problem. The problem is that they don't coexist because very often some of the teachers or leaders are in the business of gathering disciples. Because then if somebody goes up somewhere else, if he thinks that is also right, I will use my numbers, you see. Now when you are in the middle and the center of truth, who cares if somebody comes or not? You have to speak the truth. Doesn't matter if tomorrow you say, I don't care about this fellow. Okay, fine, thank you very much. You are undisturbed. So, it's 7:15, 1 hour. Thank you. I know I could spend some more time with him and talk about various things. Short and sweet is better always. Instead of rambling. Friends, in the world heard the very essence of what all of us are searching for. It is said about a rabbi. A disciple went to him and said, "You tell me the essence of the Torah."
while I stand on one foot, you must finish it before I put the other foot down. He said, I have to do that. You don't do to others that if done to you is unpleasant. Rest of his oral commentary. Torah is the essence of it is this. Na pareshu kurvita jhanan apriyam atmanaha. If done to you, you find it unpleasant. You don't do it to others. This is Christianity. This is Hinduism. It is Judaism. I came into the orbit of in a different way. I was in a school committee when the beautiful school at near Madanpalli, People Grove Public School. I met a number of his gracious disciples, gracious people. When I heard him for the first time, I was reminded of Swami Siddheshwarananda, who was a monk of the Ramakrishna order, who in fact was responsible for initiating Swami Ranganathananda into the order himself. He stayed in France, in Paris for 52 years, and he wrote a book in French, which was translated, Carmelite Mysticism and Hindu Thought. That summarized the yearning of the soul for knowledge and freedom. That which binds is non-knowledge. That sets you free is true knowledge. There's a beautiful story which is told to us in the small classes which we attended. The story is called the Abu Khan Ki Bakri. There was one frontier man in the mountains. He was called Abu Khan. He was very fond of goat kids, and he would bring them, nurture them with milk and love, and make them sleep with him in the cold nights, warming them with his own blanket. But somehow in the middle of the night, they would run away and get eaten by the mountain lion. Then he brought a small, beautiful white goat kid. He called it the Chandani. And this time he wasn't prepared to see that it doesn't escape. And he was afraid that they will lose their lives and become food for the mountain lion. And one night he found the Chandani also had disappeared and got eaten. Then he said, even goat kids prefer death in liberty, freedom, than luxury in bondage. And what about human beings? This was the story in those days of freedom struggle. The Guru's role is to set one free. And there is the fruit of wisdom, the top of the tree, is approached by the ants by clambering up the whole stem and the branches and ultimately walk up. The ants, that's called the Pipilika Marga. He goes and eats the tree with great amount of labor, gets up. There is another marga called the Shukha Marga. The parrot rushes straight to the sky and snatches it. That's the Shukha Marga. The Guru is one who brings that fruit to your table, gives it to you and feeds you with it. This is exactly what we have experienced. The truth is so simple, but it's awesome, because it takes a determination that you must detach yourself from the form and go to the essence. The Sufis, Jalaluddin Rumi, he tells the dal that we used to eat, cook. He says, describes the suffering, purpose of suffering in life. He says, I'll see that you are boiled in boiling water. He addresses the dal and says, I'll cook you in boiling water. You know how much of suffering you will have. then after that I won't leave you. I'll chew you. I'll put you into that suffering. Then you know what happens to you. You become a part of my energy and a part of my thought and go to God with that. And he also tells the apple, the dense bow of the apple, if you don't detach yourself from the dense world, you don't go to the king's table and the golden plate. You have to detach yourself. This is what he said. This is, why do we commit, in fact in the Gita, of course, when first time I read his book, and you know all gurus are not easy of access unless the Shishya has a 12 years apprenticeship. And for his, of course they're all born that way, the essence of religion is not dogma, is not the rituals, it is mysticism. It is the mystic. And this is what Siddheshwarananda says. Don't use this word religion too often. They have provocative slogans in religion. You put one slogan against another slogan and you get confused. The essence is mysticism. And the basis of mysticism, in fact, as Sri M was explaining, the truth is beyond physical perception. Physical senses can't touch it. The words don't touch, thought can't go. How do you reach it? How do you understand there are things beyond the ken of your physical senses? How do you reach it? You admit that these truths are beyond your physical perception. And when you deal with it, you deal with the mystic method that you enhance your perception in the depth, when you enhance your consciousness about the limits of Prakriti, the Tripurti, you go over that, and then you perceive that this is intuited in a state of a supra-conscious state. This is the essence of perception. And as he told us, every religion is based on this extra sensory perception. And for rules are made depending on Desha, Kala and Vartamana. What was taught for the Bedouin tribes by Muhammad Prophet may not be appropriate today for the modern world in some other part of the country. These are the changing kind of things, mutable things. The immutable thing is the truth that, in fact, what we in the Hindu practice forget is what Bhagavad Puran itself said. Kapila Muni, his mother Devahuti, asks him, he addresses him as Prabhu, the son. She says, how do I worship? He says, if you don't worship me as the indwelling divinity in every human being, and worship me in every human being, don't come to me with rich ornaments and jewelry and clothing. This is the truth. And why do we, in fact, the Buddha was born a Hindu, lived a Hindu and died a Hindu. His teachings were all Upanishadic. But one thing he saved us from, unnecessary speculation about something which that is an individual pursuit, attainment to the divine state. In fact, in the marriage rituals, the husband and wife, the future husband and wife, circumambulate the fire and take 3 oaths. Athecha, dharmecha, kamecha, naticha ditavyam. I don't transgress you in the pursuit of artha, dharma and kama. Nachicharam, Naticharam, he promises that. But one significant purushartha is omitted, moksha. Athecha, dharmecha, kamecha. There is no family pass for moksha. It is only your own effort. The husband and wife separately pursue their own various paths. The Guru's role is that. In fact, why do we commit sins in this world? Why Why does a man, anichasi, without desiring to commit sins, why does he do it? Baladeva is compelled to do it. This is Kamesha, Krovesha, Rajoguna Samudbha. This is the thing by which desire, excessive desire, and this is what the whole beauty of it is. It is so simple. That's where the problem is. Unless it is made complicated, people don't get attracted to it. If it is too simple, they bypass it as an obvious thing. And the greatest truth, the most simple, this is the message of Swamiji. In fact, when I read his book, then I was amazed at what he went through, but never spoke of it till we read that book. In fact, I had the privilege of being part of the function some years ago when Karan Singh released that book. People must read it to know ultimately what's the message of that. The message is that was demonstrated on an occasion when I was sitting with Sri Yam, and that his phone was bothering him, cell phone was bothering him. I told him, put it, close it, disconnect the telephone. He said, no, somebody may need some help sometime. I don't want to close it. This is the ultimate philosophy of Yam. This is that is available to everyone who sincerely wants to go to him. Thank you very much for being here. And Swamiji, when somebody told me, I got the message only this afternoon that Yam is coming today. He said, as the president of this association, I offer my most respectful gratitude, express my most respectful gratitude to him for having sanctified this presence by his presence. Thank you very much.
Sir, will you sit down?
Dear friends, we have come to the close of the meeting, and it is my privilege to propose vote of thanks on behalf of the Municipal Commission, on behalf of the President, on behalf of all of you and myself. I offer my profound pranams and dhanyavad to Sri M for having given such an enlightening talk, and the message that he has given to us is so simple and so effective and so touched the heart that we carry this for a long time, and very inspirational. And on behalf of all of you again, I offer my thanks to Justice M. Venkatacharya for his beautiful remarks on the lecture delivered by Sri M. And I thank you, all of you, for having graced the occasion. Thank you for it all. Thank you.
It's a little hot stuff.
That's it.